such a time as this.
Welcome to For Such a Time as This. I'm your host, Pastor James Pittman. There's something very upsetting going on down in South America in Venezuela. It seems as though they are trapped in a civil war. We actually have friends from Venezuela. It is very disturbing. Their families are in such upheaval, which begs the question: believers in civil unrest, what do we do? I want to play a clip from Fox News Channel, and we'll talk about what is the Christian's response in such civil unrest. Let me play the clip.
Another day of clashes in the streets of Venezuela after opposition leader Juan Guaido called for an uprising against the socialist Maduro regime. You've probably noticed that the protesters there are unarmed and can't really fight back against the government. That's because Venezuela banned private gun ownership in 2012. While covering the chaos yesterday, the mainstream media accidentally slipped up and defended America's Second Amendment. Watch.
You have to understand, in Venezuela, gun ownership is not something that is open to everybody. So if the military have the guns, they have the power. And as long as Nicolas Maduro controls the military, he controls the country.
Jesse, so quite a slip up there. And I always wonder why it's so hard for people in media to realize that what's happening over there could happen over here. Same thing for socialism, right? It's like, oh, that's over there. That's happening over there. But that is what the fear is, that ultimately one day could that happen here if all of our rights are taken away.
Right. The media never looks to reality for examples. They can see everything happening all over the world. But then when you say, OK, well, what about its impact here in the United States, they never take that to heart. I think it was...
I have friends, again, as I told you, from Venezuela, and they're telling me, the Venezuelans here, the church, connected to the church, they're telling me that what they saw happen in Venezuela is, in fact, happening here, that the spirit to push towards socialism there is happening here. So the question is, how do Christians react to civil unrest like this? Not only in Venezuela, what about the Christians in Nigeria who are in the bush, in their villages, and Muslims come to their village and misuse and mistreat them, take their kids away? Now, I often speak to my friends, pastors from Africa and Nigeria. I ask the question, whether it's in Nigeria or Cameroon, how come y'all not defending yourselves? And it's a different mindset. It is clearly a different mindset. And I want to play this. I want to read this text because there is a theological, how can I say it? A theological debate over this. Matthew 5:38. You have heard that it was said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I say to you, do not resist the one who is evil. But if anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn to him the other also. And if anyone would sue you and take your tunic, typo there, let him have your cloak as well. And if anyone forces you to go 1 mile, go with him 2 miles. Give to the one who begs from you, and do not refuse the one who would borrow from you. Sometimes people use that text and say that Christians should be passive, that Christianity is a mindset, a religion, a lifestyle of passivity. I'm not there yet. No, I don't see it. The way I read Matthew 5 right there is that within a civil context, when someone civilly comes to, whether it be a neighbor or a family member, that we are not to return evil for evil, that we are not to get to a point to where if you hit me, I'm going to hit you back. If you cut me, I'm going to cut you. I think civilly speaking amongst the people of God, that changed. It changed from that of, and remember, the eye for eye, tooth for tooth, that was specifically given to the nation of Israel and how to judge in civil court. See, and so now that civil courts are no longer part of the New Testament believers because we disperse among the nations, that attitude one an eye for an eye is no longer should rule in the courts back in Israel, but amongst the people of God. The people of God know we're supposed to love and forgive and offer the other cheek. I do not read that in saying that if I am in Nigeria and some Muslims, I don't care who they are, they come to my village and want to take my children. If I got a 9mm or an AR, guess what? Get ready to eat some lead. Maybe it's just me, maybe it's cultural, but I'm not there yet. So in Venezuela, had not, and in 2012, my understanding is a lot of Venezuelans wanted to obey the law and turn in their guns, and look what happened. Look what happened. So I don't know. Again, this is open to debate. Good Christians can disagree on this. What do you tell the Chinese believers in China who's yielding to the government? That's their conviction. I'm not going to criticize them or the people in Nigeria or the people in Venezuela, the believers. You know, I'm not going to criticize you guys. If you want to take Matthew 5 as the reason for don't resist the evil man, but I ain't there yet. Maybe I ain't strong enough yet. Maybe I'm just not there. I don't believe that it's in the character of our God, the Lord of hosts. Host is an army. Jesus will come back as a conquering king. When he comes back on Mount Olive, he won't be passive. And so I just see God all throughout the scriptures. He's not passive for the most part. David was not a passive man. Joshua, when he came into the land of Canaan, he wasn't passive, and he wasn't crying and hoping and telling people to repent. No, he came with the sword. And so it's tough, but for me, where I am, no, give me my Second Amendment, man. No.
For such a time as this.